Hey Kyle.
Hey, Karli.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good morning.
Yeah, it's a good morning. It's a big day.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's weird to be a guest on my own pod, but I guess today's the day.
Today's the day. Well, let's kick things off. Welcome everyone to the Paperboy podcast. We do have something really fun in store for everybody today. It's a bonus episode. And yeah, we are putting Kyle in the hot seat to tell us everything that he is here to tell us about. But before we get there, I've done a couple of episodes interviewing various founders over the last couple of years, which I love doing, but I'm very excited to interview Kyle today. But I'm Karli Bainbridge, and I've known Kyle for quite some time actually now. We met at Red Bull. I mean, it's over a decade. It's probably closer to 13 years ago at this point. We both worked there together. I actually also worked with Sandy, Kyle's wife. We were both on the national brand team together. And then we also later worked together in New York. And I also, fun fact, heavily third wheeled your relationship for some time here in Brooklyn, actually in this building in Brooklyn, a couple floors down. And we were roommates for a while we were all just thriving and hustling in our 20s, trying to make it, all working at Red Bull or Sandy at Heineken at the time. And it was a good time. And
Yeah,
since
I
then, we've
I
stayed
think
close.
it's well said. I mean, roommates, coworkers, friends, and I think one thing that you don't really realize that you did for Sandy and I is you saved us from a 350 square foot shoebox apartment in that building that you're in right now, and that's where Sandy and I were living, and then you were moving from LA to New York,
Yeah.
and it was like, all right, we can get a bigger place if we
Yeah.
get Karli in on this. So
Yeah.
we're like, all right, in. And then I think we got like 1,000 square feet at that point.
Yeah.
Still pretty small, but thank you for that, and honestly for joining Paperboy and helping us bring this whole thing to life. So this is your show today. I'm just here to answer questions. I'll say nothing is off guard or off topic. Really, the point of what we're doing today is we've got some big news, and this is a huge moment in the history of Paperboy. So by the time this comes out, we'll have officially launched our first venture fund. And there's a really unique strategy and structure behind that, which we'll unpack today. And yeah, it's just a really exciting time for us. We've got some new teammates that are joining the roster and some new partnerships. So we'll be breaking news all over this pod today. And really, the design of this is to do it in the standard Paperboy format, which, if you followed our conversations over the past 2 years or so, this platform is built to give founders an opportunity to tell their story and share their background and really let the audience know, which is often investors and other operators, who they are and where they're at in their journey and why they are the ones to execute the mission at hand. Because we focus on early stage founders and startups, and at this stage, there's very little data to review. And of course, you can go into the data, but it's much more so about the people and the person that is building the thing. So we were talking about the idea of doing this, and with everything we have coming out, it's like, all right, I'll jump to the other side and let's do it. Whatever you want to talk about, I'm down. So Karli, floor is yours.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I think people need to hear it straight from you with the breaking news that we've got today because it's a big deal. Um, Before we wind it back and just bring people along the journey of the last few years, you have some pretty amazing experience yourself, which I don't know if everyone knows completely your story. You've spanned the whole spectrum of CPG, been a founder yourself. So perhaps just give us a quick rundown of your experience because it really means that you are like valid in sitting where you are today as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you, and I'll give the quick rundown on kind of where I started my career in the consumer product space, and really everything I've done over the past 15, 16 years of my professional career has been in consumer. So I'll paint the picture on those experiences and a couple takeaways of what I've learned because it's absolutely influenced what we're building now with Paperboy, and I think you'll see shades of that come through within each part of the story. But yeah, we can get started with Red Bull, which is where we first met, and and worked together there. And my first experience at Red Bull was actually on the distribution side of things, and I think it's a part that gets overlooked often by founders now in the industry, just how physical of a game beverage distribution is. And I'm talking, getting up at 3:30 in the morning, and this was in Van Nuys, California, and we'd show up at the Red Bull distribution warehouse, and trucks are out by 4:30, and you're hitting, depending on your route that day, you're hitting potentially 25 accounts in a day, and you're wheeling cases in and out, and you're dealing with store managers, and there is an art to that. There's so much effort that goes behind it, and there's a lot of other factors at play that I think if you were just starting something from scratch, and you weren't really haven't seen that side of the industry, you might overlook. And I'll give you one of the crazy stories. Right when we first got there, so the Red Bull trucks were actually getting robbed by it was an organized crime outfit of some sorts, and this is like my first week there. We have an officer come in to the distribution facility, and they like briefed the entire sales team on what was going on. And basically every day at like the second or third stop of the route, the sales manager would go into the retail account, and these guys would come and they would rob the truck in 3 minutes, and they would sell it on the black market and sell it for pennies on the dollar and make money that way. But just like one of those things, you don't even think about stuff like that, like theft at that level. But really, there's so much work and so much that goes into getting products on store shelves that like it just gets overlooked in my opinion. So it was cool to see it like firsthand in that instance. I don't know if you ever had any issues like that with Red Bull, but
Yeah, especially, I mean, you were obviously on the distribution side, I was on the marketing side, and a chunk of my early career was managing the Wings team program. So, you've got a fleet of, God, what was it back in the day? 1,500 Wings team members and 500 minis, and you think these people are quite, they're at college in early 20s, and we would get products stolen out the mini all the time. I think Red Bull's just such a hot commodity that people would try and steal it, whether it was distribution trucks or out of the minis or even take the minis themselves. Like, yeah, we certainly dealt with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's liquid gold, and it still is, and it's doing well today. But really, that's not the point of the experience here. It's just to paint the picture of how difficult it is, really, just to get product on shelf and sell it through in this industry. So, really, at Red Bull, I spent the first 5 years of my career there, and the primary focus for me was on the sales and distribution side. And one of the last roles at Red Bull for me was managing distribution in the New York City market, which was an unbelievable experience, and really just the characters that you would come across in negotiating deals, and just on the distributor side, the retailer side, it really opened my eyes for just how big of an industry this is. And if you just think about the New York City market, I mean, we had I think it was 20,000 bodegas that were
Yeah.
buying product just within the five boroughs. So it's like its own country in that regard. And just partnering with people on your side of the business to really activate in that market, it was cool to just have a seat at the table and just play a small role in how world class brands are built.
Yeah.
So really learned a ton with that experience. And one of the best parts too is the network that I've been able to build up since starting at Red Bull, and that was 2011 to 2016. So most of those people that I was working with then have fanned out, and I can't. There's dozens of founders. Like, it's pretty unbelievable the talent pool that has since grown out of that organization. So a lot of those people I'm close with today, and I mean, still work with today. So it was just a nice experience to learn I'll say, like, the enterprise side of consumer goods. And Red Bull's like the least corporate that's out there.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, it still is a giant enterprise. And I've always had this draw to really go work on the startup side of the equation. So actually, I left Red Bull in 2016 to do exactly that. And I went into the startup side of consumer. I worked on actually had a stint with a Chinese tech company that was making physical products to help people focus right after Red Bull. That was an interesting story. And then shortly after that, I helped co-found a brand in the personal care space called the Feel Good Lab. And the Feel Good Lab, which is still around today, makes better for you topical pain relief creams. So you could think of it like a new aged icy hot or a biofreeze, and really a very smart product idea and positioning that I'd say was maybe a little ahead of its time in 2017 when we started it, but still has plenty of room to grow. And essentially, what we did with that product, the core product line, was pull out all of the chemical preservatives and parabens that are prevalent in OTC pain creams today, and we replace them with better for you ingredients like arnica and turmeric, chondroitin and glucosamine, things that are actually beneficial to your system to contribute to a process of healing versus simply masking pain. And all while falling under the FDA designation of a topical pain cream. So we had to navigate that system and get everything approved there. So started that in the 2017 range and built that business up for a few years from scratch. And that was absolutely a defining experience in my career. We raised a few $1,000,000 to get that off the ground. We went through a startup accelerator in Boston that we learned a ton from. And we ended up launching these products nationally with some major retailers in March of 2020. So that was a tough time, and I'll say for a new brand, and we're a premium brand. I'll always remember we went on shelf at close to $30. It was 27.99. The rest of the category was much cheaper, had packaging that was smaller than us, and it became very difficult to drive velocity in that type of environment. With we made our own mistakes on pricing and packaging, but then also during COVID, shoppers were not really discovering products during that time frame on shelf. So it was an eye-opening experience where we did launch the brand nationally. Weren't able to hit the velocity benchmarks that a couple of these major retailers set for us, and it put us in a pretty tough spot where we ended up having to take some of that inventory back and then build back trust with them with new offerings and new pricing to get customers back and keep products in store. So we did pull that off, and I'll say the business is healthy today, but just the grind of getting that from really 0 to 1 and opening up retail through these challenging periods like COVID was eye opening, and even back to the fundraising side of it. This was my first time as a founder. I was a COO of that brand, and I had never walked into a room of angel investors and delivered a pitch. And this was the first time that I had to do that, and wow, it was it was
Humbling.
yeah, humbling is a good word. Basically, and I don't know, I'm sure some of the founders listening to this can relate. Pitching a group of angels is tough, especially if they're not specific to your industry, because you're just going to get all of these questions on why it's not going to work. And most of these investors will have a preconceived notion of the types of things they want to invest in before you walk in the door anyway. So you're probably dead on arrival for like 80% of the room. But you got to go to them. In some cases, you even have to pay to pitch to investors, which is a business model that I absolutely hate, and we'll never do at Paperboy. But hey, some people have built up networks, and that's how they run their show. So all the power to them. It's not for us. But really just saw the challenges of raising money, and I'll say raising money is probably one of the most difficult things that I've ever had to do in my career. And I've done it multiple times, but to convince somebody that your idea is the single best thing that they could invest in out of all of the thousands or millions of things that they could be putting their money towards, it's an exercise in building emotional trust as much as it is in painting the future and the in what you're
Yeah.
creating. So it's
Yeah.
just
A
super
serious,
tough. Yeah.
yeah, serious skill that, if founders can nail that, it can make or break your company. And it's something that I don't know if it could be taught anywhere. You just kind of have to figure it out, right? It's tough.
And it's a sales process,
Yeah.
like anything. You're essentially, you're painting the picture of your vision and trying to bring people along with you to and show them how they can contribute to what you're building and why you're this person to do it. But
Mhm.
it's really tough, and I'll say some years are easier than others, and it's gotten, I'll say, quite a bit more challenging over
Yeah.
these last few years. And there was a boom period after COVID where capital was quite cheap, and you could raise money on an idea with a little bit of traction, and the benchmark to raise has just gotten higher and higher to the point where now investors are looking for profitability sooner than they were in the past. They're looking for more defensible operating tactics and products and brands, and it's just really raised the watermark for bringing on capital, which all the more reason for Paperboy to exist to help in that regard. So, so yeah, just to put the pin on that experience, really opened up my world on being in that seat as an operator and trying to convince people that the vision was there and the potential for the business would hit. So after Feel Good Lab, I went to IQ Bar for a little while and worked special projects with Will Neitz, who's one of the best in the space. If you don't follow his content, I'd highly recommend it. But it really learned how he built that business up from the ground. He's in the same startup accelerator as we were in Boston, so I've really got to watch that one progress as well. And yeah, so basically after that, well, I'll start on the personal side here. My wife Sandy and I started having a bunch of young kids, and we've got three of them now that are 5 and under. We have a fourth one on the way. So yeah, this better work is really what I'm saying. But after we had our second kid, I ended up walking away from the startup life and went to a more corporate situation, which brought stability and helped to expand my universe and consumer even more. And that led me to Numerator, which, for those that aren't familiar, Numerator is a top-notch market research and insights consulting firm that works with all the biggest CPG brands that are out there. I helped lead the emerging brands team over there, which was really anything under $1 billion in annual revenue. So really brands ranging from a few $1,000,000 all the way up to 999. So a good range of interesting new up and coming type brands that we would help support with retail expansion arguments, and we would track millions of households of shopper data, and we'd be able to analyze that data to understand how products were performing and how certain retailers were executing in particular categories, and really helped to just build these expansion models for brands and land new distribution, help them interview shoppers and understand what needs were being hit and missed that led to product innovation, and also helped on the shopper marketing front, which, deep consumer profiles to allow brands to understand exactly who the people are that are consuming their products, and then to build marketing models that can help, capture the demand that these brands were missing. So just a much different experience than the startup side, and I'll say like there's a time and a place for both, for bigger corporate and for a smaller startup, and that was exactly what I needed at that point in my life. And I learned a ton there and continued to network and understand the services side of CPG, which that was my first experience working on that side of the business. So, just to sum it all up, the trajectory, the career path that I've had has sort of touched all sides of the consumer ecosystem. I've spent over 15 years in the space and have seen it most ways, across all pillars of the business. So it sort of put me in this unique spot to build Paperboy.
Mm. It really has. And as you were telling that story, there was actually the startup you left Red Bull for. I'd forgotten about that. And as you were telling that story, I was sort of tracking my own career over the years as well. And sometimes you make choices and you think, I'm just trying to make the best next right choice for myself here. And sometimes the story only makes sense when you look back on it like we just did. So as you were telling your story, I was like, wow, everything that you've done, maybe you didn't realize it at the time, but it has led you to exactly where you were at winter of 2024, which we'll come to in a minute, to start thinking about this. So yeah, it all just makes sense when you sit today and look back, even if it's you're just trying to make the next right choice as you're going along.
Oh, and it's completely unplanned. Like I
Yeah,
would have no
all of us.
idea
Yeah,
this is where I would be sitting.
yeah,
But looking back on it, yeah, it does feel like everything happens for a reason. These experiences have gotten us to this path, and yeah, it's exciting to think about where this is headed, and we'll get to that shortly.
yeah,
But yeah, should we
yeah.
jump into
Let's
that
do it.
piece? Yeah.
Yeah. So what I was thinking we could do is wind it back to 2024 winter, because this is really, at least from what I remember, as I was starting to hear about this from you too, is really where it all started to come together. So tell us about what you were thinking back then.
Yeah. So, and this was actually December 2023, so almost 2 years
Right.
ago.
Yep.
And it actually started a little bit before that. And this is going to sound kind of dumb, but this whole process, an idea behind Paperboy, well, it started with all the experiences that I just walked through. But one of the accelerators was writing on LinkedIn. And I started to do that in like the middle of 2023.
Mm.
And at that point, it just kind of hit me that I was working remotely at the time, and I'm in the same basement that I was then. But I'm a hermit on social media, so I don't really like post. I don't, like I never use Instagram. I rarely post on X, and it just kind of hit me that if I didn't start sharing things, my network would stagnate. I wouldn't get to meet more people. So for some reason, I chose LinkedIn as the platform to start with, and really just started by talking about things that I think about all the time, and writing about them, which was really startups that were raising money or had completed a round. I think one of the first posts I ever put out was on Slate Milk, and Slate, which is pretty big now, they had just raised like I don't know, a couple $1 million, is this new like canned chocolate milk protein type situation. And that was one of the first pieces I put out, and it caught across LinkedIn, and it started traveling, and it just gave me a feeling of, "Hey, maybe I should start sharing more opinions," and started just writing about other brands and categories of interest, and just things that were happening in the consumer space that I could put my specific lens on, from all these experiences that I've had. So really started through 2023, and my following, it's not huge, but it started to grow and grow and grow. And these posts were reaching 10,000 people, 20,000 people, 50,000 people, and it was kind of shocking to me because I hadn't done anything like that in the past. But I was really enjoying it, and really getting a lot out of it. And for me, I think about writing like the output, or writing is really the output of thinking about something for a long time. So, everything that I'm writing about is something I've spent hours and hours and hours at least thinking about and adding a unique perspective. And that sort of mindset helped this to catch. So a few months later, sitting there in December of 2023, sort of like over like winter break, like Christmas time, and had some time off from my day job. So I started thinking about what a content series might look like that I could own specifically and would add unique insights and value to the industry. And, I mentioned how hard it is to raise money and how many of these brands are out there at the early stage of consumer. And just think about like Expo West or any of these big trade shows where there's 4,000, 5,000 brands that are exhibiting. And if you follow the news, a few hundred of them will get funding every year. And then even less than that will get acquired in a particular year. So with that vast base of thousands of brands trying to raise money, I thought, hey, with my experience, I could help curate some of these brands and help choose the ones that have the highest potential, getting better at content. So can maybe write them up in a newsletter and interview the CEO and put it behind a platform, call it Paperboy, and deliver this news to my network, which was, founders, investors, other operators in the industry. And really, didn't take too much time to get it off the ground. It was over the course of a few weeks. My wife, Sandy, shout out to Sandy, and we developed the brand. We built all the logos, the look and feel, and created the original concept, which is now our Deals newsletter. So the idea for Deals, put simply, it's Shark Tank for early stage CPG, but in a newsletter and with a podcast. So put the word out on LinkedIn that we were doing this, and we were looking for brands to participate in the first season of content. And we got a ton of inbound right away. So knew something was there from the jump. We set the newsletter out to the industry, got a few hundred subscribers right out of the gates, and launched our first episode, which turned out to be a good one. So the first episode we ever put out is a pasta sauce brand named Saws. So Saws at the time was very small, had just launched. I think it was like 6 months or so before the episode aired, and had Winston and Troy, who are two awesome guys, the founders of that brand. They were the first ones on the pod, and we told their story and we sent it out to the industry. And I can't remember exactly what price they were raising at the time, but they were south of 10 million. And we framed it up, allowed our network to invest via the newsletter the same way that we do today, and they move forward with closing their seed round. So flash forward to today, they just raised a few months ago. I believe it's a $12 million round from Kavu. Their valuation is multiples on what it was when we first featured them. So it was a nice first one out of the gates. Proved that, hey, maybe we can do this and be dangerous at it. So that's really how it all got started.
Yeah, I remember that episode vividly. And honestly, I always followed your content, obviously, and you always had such a unique point of view, and I would look forward to them coming out, honestly. And I remember when you first put out that call to action, and I think you shared the sheet with me, and I was like, holy shit, there are so many people that want to be involved with this. And maybe it blew you away too, but that was when I was like, there's really something here, and there's really a need for this too. And maybe that's when we started chatting. I kind of felt like, maybe sounds a bit cheesy, but like a moth to a flame. Like, I kind of obsess over emerging brands, and I think it's really amazing how many really talented founders are truly innovating within each category across CPG, food and drink, and beyond. And I was looking at the list, and I would be discovering these new brands. I was like, wow, they're really shaking shit up here. And yeah, I think, I was probably just trying to get involved any way I can at that point too, because I was like, this is exciting. And I mean, if you couldn't think of it, I couldn't think of another platform that was telling these stories in such a way. And you had such an eye for spotting the right brand to put on the platform. But yeah, that really set the ball rolling with those guys. It was really exciting.
Yeah, and thanks. That is when we started seriously
Yeah.
talking about working on this together. And I'll say that what you just mentioned, aside from the business opportunity, it's just fun. Like,
Yeah.
it's super fun to be involved at the earliest stages of consumer, because you have these people that are so creative
Great.
and psychotic, and like you have to be crazy to develop something from 0 to 1, and the industry is so competitive that unless you have like a certain spark or a different way of
Yeah.
thinking, you don't stand a chance. But it's incredibly meaningful to chat with these founders that many of them have risked their lives financially. Like they put everything on it in order to make the thing work, and it's just it's cool to play a role in helping to support that and connect brands to the
Yeah.
industry. And yeah, one thing I'll say too, we weren't taking any fees or anything
Mhm.
with doing this. There is a different business model where you connect brands with investors. You could take a fee, but you've got to be a registered broker dealer to do that. In the world of professional finance, that wasn't the idea behind what we wanted to do. Really, this was just, let's start a content series and see if people pay attention to it and
It's
see if it
super
will help.
organic. Yeah.
Yeah, see if it will help brands raise money. Both of those things came true, and it just started to grow and grow organically
Yeah.
through the space, because this was also a nights and weekends side project. I was still
Yeah.
working a full-time day job. So basically, we executed the full first season, which it was 10 episodes, and had some great brands on like Saws and Daily Crunch and Coconut Cold, Algae Cooking Club. And if you look at our alumni that have been through, and we've done 26 episodes to date, there's some really impressive brands that have substantially increased value since they've been on our platform. And look, not to say that we are the sole reason of why that these brands have accelerated. That is absolutely not the case. I think that we play a role in it, and investing in supporting these brands. One of my favorite lines that somebody, I can't remember who told me this. I wish I could give them credit, but somebody once told me dots or lines, not dots. And a dot you could think of as when you first meet somebody. That's one experience, right? Like that's your only context as to how this person operates. A line is when you have multiple point or multiple. You know what a line is. A
Yeah.
line is when you have multiple dots on the line, so you have multiple points of reference for how
Mm.
people operate. And I'll say what Paperboy is when we feature a brand. It's a very powerful dot. And a lot of these founders have had many conversations with investors or potential brand partners in the universe, but there isn't that one thing that like gets them over the edge. And this is essentially a stamp of approval that helps tell the story in a nice, succinct way and brings a very valuable piece of media exposure to help these founders pick up those conversations that have fallen off, earn new connections, and really start to take in some money for their businesses as they help to grow them from the seed stage to maybe the A or later.
Yeah, totally. And it becomes an amazing resource, like you say, that they can pass along to save them maybe having to go to that room every time and talk to different investors, but it puts them on a pedestal, on a platform where people can discover them too, versus always having to be on the founder to do all the outbound. So, yeah, I think that's an amazing thing that Paperboy does for all the brands we've had. And yeah, there's been some standout conversations. I learned something new every single time I listen to an episode because everyone has a different journey and a different experience. And, you don't think you have to be in a founder yourself to really enjoy hearing everyone's stories. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And just to continue the path. So, first season we completed in the spring of 24, ran a second season, which was 8 more episodes in the fall of 24. And we had, again, some great brands on like Jesse and Ben's, the French fry company, Kanpai Foods and Candy, Coconut Cartel, another one. And the audience continued to grow and interest was building. So, I'll say that was the fall of 24 is when I started to really give some serious thought to, hey, like there could be a real asset here. There's a path to building this into something very unique and special in the industry that doesn't really exist. And that's really when my gears started turning to, can I make this a full-time thing? Is now the right time to do it? What would it look like if we did it? And yeah, ultimately got there in January.
so that really kicks off the next chapter of this when you made the leap of faith, you jumped all in, 2 feet, everything to really make Paperboy your full-time gig essentially. So what came after that? So now we're really at the start of 25. Bring us through the journey of this year.
Yeah, so I I was leading a team at my old company and finished the year out strong. Wanted to make sure that was all taken care of.
Hmm.
Went away for a week over the holidays, and then came back in early January, and I left my job. And by then, we had already sketched out like what does 2025 look like? What are the properties that we're going to launch? How are we going to grow this? And always the fund was there. It was just the second piece of what we were planning to do for the year. So really, I'll say the mission or the vision wasn't really to build this like massive company or organization that like becomes this behemoth. It was really, let's take it one step at a time and add value to pieces of the ecosystem and consumer that we think are lacking. One of those is investment, which we'll talk about, but the other two are really talent.
Hmm.
Finding great people, and also storytelling and media. And I'll say there's more content than ever today, but there's a lot of slop and garbage. And I think that specialized content platforms and communicators are going to be the ones that break through over the next 5 to 10 years as it becomes, just go on LinkedIn today. Like the newsfeed's a disaster. Like, every executive is plugging their a prompt into GPT and then they're throwing it right into the newsfeed. And it is terrible. And you can tell immediately.
No,
So,
yes.
we're at like, in my opinion, I think we're around like peak slop right now, and I do think some of these platforms are gonna start to regulate that, and I hope that they will. But
Mhm.
the people who are operating like that are not going to they're not going to win anyways. So I think it does take like that real authentic approach to speaking and to writing that that's the only way that you're gonna resonate. But anyways, that's a whole different conversation. Quit the job, launched a third season in the spring of 2025, and again some awesome brands in that one, and completed that season by June. And throughout that season, it was always the plan to, for the fourth season, we want to have a fund now that will start investing in these brands directly, because with the way that Paperboy has developed, we've basically built an inbound deal funnel that is, I'd say, the strongest in the industry. Hundreds and hundreds of brands apply to get into the newsletter, to get their story featured on the podcast, and we've just got a really great pulse on what's going on at the earliest stage of CPG. And, we know these founders and have relationships with many of them. So puts us in this unique spot where it's like, okay, we have the access to the founders. We have the deal flow. We have the knowledge of the space. The only thing we don't have is the money to invest. And part of the reason to do these 3 seasons of content was to build that track record and show that, and show, hey, we can get into these deals, and see what we've done over the past year and a half should give confidence into what we're building in the future. But yeah, before I fully get to the fund and how that's operating, really why we're here today, the piece that we launched in addition in the middle of this year was our talent and jobs platform, which just as we curate the highest quality early stage brands in the space, we curate the best commercial and leadership opportunities weekly, and we send them out to a newsletter called our Jobs newsletter. We also have a talent network that's a few hundred strong right now, and partner with brands to hire key talent. So really what this is becoming is a go-to platform in early stage consumer for quality storytelling, great job opportunities and people, and investment.
Wow. When you sum it up like that, it's quite amazing to realize how much has happened even in just what, 3/4 of a year. So, well, that brings us to today. And today's a really big day. And this is why you are in the hot seat, as we keep saying, because today we announce Paperboy's first fund. And when you tell the story, it is the perfect next step for Paperboy. It makes complete sense that we would want to actually support brands from a financial perspective. I think, as you've been bringing me along the journey of building the fund and putting it together, once again, is your complete unique take and perspective on what this should look like, and you aren't just rinsing and repeating the models of old. So yeah, it's a completely new way of investing in brands, and I'm super excited for everyone to hear directly from you today about how you got here, where you started with it, and where we've landed with what it's going to look like.
Yeah, so we've always known that this was going to be a piece of the Paperboy platform, investing directly. We just weren't sure exactly what form it would take, and what would be the best setup to get it built. So I started having conversations with some people in my network and finance professionals back in, it's probably May or June of this year. And the feedback that I was primarily getting was run this like a standard VC fund and do the 2 and 20 compensation model. Raise a decent sized fund so you can pay yourself a full salary. Raise a $10 million fund, build a formal investment committee that with voting rights, and only make a couple bets per year, do 3 bets per year for 3 to 5 years, and then call it a day. You earn money on your fees, and you hope a couple of bets hit. Do a substantial minimum, 250K. So you're only dealing with professionals in the space that really understand it. And for a while, I went down that path and got pretty close to moving forward with that strategy. And I'll say a couple months ago, there started to be some cracks in that for how it felt, and just didn't feel exactly on brand and right with everything that we built today. It felt like we were alienating the network with the high minimum, and you know only making a couple bets per year. We weren't really taking advantage of the full deal funnel that we've built. And if we could talk all day about the opportunities that are out there, there's some incredible brands and people right now that are doing some amazing things. And it's at a time where the CPG industry is getting completely overhauled. So the timing of this, I think, is sensational, as well as the brands that are coming together. So one night, probably 2 months ago, Sandy and I were talking about it, and we were like late at night, and it was like, what feels wrong about this? And we just kind of tore it all down, and we're like, there's a better way to do this, where we connect things directly to our audience, and we operate this more in Paperboy style. So we don't have to do the traditional VC route, the 2 and 20 route. We can do something that's more unique and tied together with the media piece that we've already got. So I'll start with the big reveal here, which is that we'll now be investing in every single brand that we feature in Deal Season 4. So that is going to run for all of 2026. So the difference there is, previously we'd been running 2 seasons per year. We're now going to do 1 season per year, but the episodes will be spaced out a little bit further. There'll be 8 of them, and every single brand that gets on our platform will get a check from Paperboy Fund, a story on the platform, and then connections to our audience of really movers and shakers in the industry. So that's the biggest reveal. And then I'll say the strategy and the structure of how this is being put together is super unique to the industry, and it's just really on brand with what we do. And the play is, it's really like a venture media type play, where our platform and our connections in the space give us access to the best deals. We invest in them, and then we put them on our platform for our audience to follow on and invest as well.
I mean, it really is unique. And I think what I love the most about it is that, sounds again maybe cheesy, but everybody wins, right? Like the brands and the founders get the most efficient, maximum investment that they can get from Paperboy, continued exposure across our platforms. And we get to do what we always do, which is support as many brands and founders as we can in the right way versus copying models of old. So I think it's pretty incredible that you were brave enough to go against status quo and create something that feels right for us and for Paperboy, and ultimately do right by the CPG community that you've worked so hard to, curate and build over the years. So yeah, I think it's amazing. Should we get into a little bit more of the specifics? So what the fund is going to look like and how it's going to work.
Absolutely. So I think this is where things get very interesting. And I'll start with something that is not very interesting, which is a disclaimer that my lawyer asked me to read. So the disclaimer here is we are raising under Reg D 506C, which allows for general solicitation and basically allows us to talk about the terms and the strategy and the structure publicly, like on this podcast, which is why we went for that. So here's the disclaimer. Nothing in this episode is investment advice or an offer to sell securities. Paperboy Fund I is being raised under Reg D 506C, which means it's open only to verified accredited investors. Everything discussed here is for informational purposes only. So I'll put that there. But 506C is actually pretty interesting because if you're not raising under 506C, you're in 506B, which you're not allowed to publicly talk about what you're doing. So like, these rules get broken all the time. And again, if you go on LinkedIn, you'll see founders that are posting like, hey, we're raising. And it's like, you're actually not supposed to do that unless you're under 506C, which requires an extra step in an investor accreditation. But for us, it makes sense because we've got the media platform. We want to talk about this publicly. And also, I just think that the structure that we've landed on is super unique and ownable by Paperboy. So I'll get into exactly what that is. I'll start with the strategy. So our focus is the same as it's been for the 3 seasons of Deals. Early stage CPGs focused on food, beverage, other consumable product categories. Seed and early Series A is where we're going to live. So these are brands that are below 10 million in net sales. And the design of Paperboy Fund I is a small sprint fund. It's built around speed and efficiency that takes advantage of the media platform and gives us access to all the opportunities at our disposal. I mentioned that every brand in season 4 is going to get a check from us. So we're going to be deploying 80% of the fund's capital in that first year. So all of it goes to those 8 brands outside of the final 20%, which is for follow-on investing in the top 1 or 2 or possibly 3 performers of that bunch. So what's unique about that is most funds will run 10-year funds and they'll have a 3 to 5 year active investing period. With us, we're really taking a 1 to 2 year active investing period where we deploy 80% in that first year, and then the follow-on money will likely be in that second year. So it allows us to charge much less in management fees because basically years 3 to 10, we're not actively investing. So we don't need to take a 2% management fee in year 6 or 7 like many funds do. And we're getting all of our expenses covered through the fund administration fees from years 3 to 10. So I'll talk about the fees in a second when we get back to the structure. But on the strategy side, why this works well is we're positioned as a follow-on investor, not a lead. And the goal is to be the best follow-on investor in the industry because we have a check size that's conducive to follow-ons. We're not going to lead any of these rounds. Most of these brands are raising between like 1 and 3 and 4 million bucks. Our check size is going to be in the 2 to 300K range. So we're not leading. We're not setting price. We're essentially following on with the strategics that are in our network, adding the check and then adding the media exposure to help tell the story to the industry. So we're positioning ourselves to be more than just a check writer. We're also a connector and a storyteller that is just very well ingrained in the CPG space.
So that's the strategy. And that really lays out how this fund is completely different and is kind of breaking the mold, right? On how much money is actually going back to the brands themselves. Let's get into the structure. You started to touch on it there, but I think this is also where it gets interesting and different too.
Yeah. So, and I also wanted to touch on the size of the fund that we're raising. So it's a It's a small scout fund. The max that we're going to take is 3 million because of the check size that we're aiming to hit. We want to be in that follow-on position, and it also makes sense for the long term of Paperboy, where we can run this sort of fund every year. So every season of Paperboy is essentially its own vintage fund. And rather than taking a bet on one brand, these angels in our network can get exposure to all eight that we feature throughout the course of the year. So it's a more diversified bet. Exposure across a basket of brands versus individuals, because angel investing is incredibly hard, and most people will lose their shirt on it. So if you really can increase exposure across a handful of brands, it just puts you in a better spot. But yeah, regarding the actual structure, so the 2-year deployment period lends itself really well to taking less management fees, which basically means more money goes to brands versus fund overhead. So I'll tell you exactly the fee structure we have, because I think it's very unique and different. So we're taking 2.5% management fees for the first 2 years. So that's 5% in total. We go to zero from years 3 to 10. We are charging fund administration fees because we have to run the fund. We have to run the finance and the accounting. So that gets layered on as a different fee bucket. But everybody has to pay those, and that's just the nature of keeping the lights on with the fund. But if you think just about the management fees, so a standard venture fund will run a 2% management fee for 10 years. That's 20% in management fees. So if you have $1, only 80 cents on that dollar is going to the company that you invest in. With us, if we have $1 and we're taking the management fees, it's 5 cents off the dollar, because it's 2.5 times two. So you could make the argument we're 4 times as efficient as a standard VC fund, because we're bringing as much possible as capital to the brand versus tying up that money in management fees when we're not managing things beyond really the second year. So I think there's I've learned some of these pain points after being on the trail the last few months and talking to a lot of investors. And the standard 2 and 20 is it's a hot button issue right now, because a lot of funds will, a lot of the reputable funds will charge that because they can get it. But then you've got some new age players like us that are thinking about things differently, and it's like, why do I need a 2% management fee in year 6? Like, I don't. We're putting our bets on the best companies that we can, and we're letting these founders cook. And we're going to support them in the best ways that we can, but it's not enough to take salary off of the table and away from these companies, especially at such an early stage in their businesses. So yeah, that's the whole idea behind this. And I'll say it's challenging for small funds to be efficient, because a lot of that capital does get tied up on a percentage basis in fund administration fees. But we've also worked it out to find a great partner on the fund ops platform. We're working with Sidecar to manage all of the accounting, finance, and legal and platform. So we figured that out on that side. And yeah, the end result is just more capital to brands and less to overhead.
Yeah, efficient and effective. Um, you've also got some great people involved in the fund too. I don't know if you want to get into that and share some of the folks that are going to be joining the journey.
Yeah. So yeah, more breaking news. And
Yeah.
so we've officially brought on 2 venture advisors that are incredible people and entrepreneurs in the CPG space. So I'll say the first one is Daniel Fireman. He's an entrepreneur and general partner at Habitat Partners, Investeco, and a few other funds. Also runs some of his own businesses. He's coming on to help spotlight some deals, participate in the investment conversations, and really just to expand the network of opportunities that we see. Also bringing on Siobhan Gompers, another awesome person who is the head of strategy and ops at Squared Circles, which is a science-backed CPG incubator for early stage consumer product companies. So really just a couple of great people to layer into the fold to help help spread awareness and gain access into even better opportunities than the ones that we have today. And I'll say there's a few others that we are going to bring on as well. Those will be announced in the coming weeks, but yeah, it's always exciting to have new blood, new people along for the ride, and these won't be the last ones. We're gonna have a few more join in 26 that will likely be full-time roles.
Yeah, I'm excited to have those folks join in, and it just brings more opinions, more networks, more knowledge to the table and rounds us out, which is, yeah, very much looking forward to it. Before we wrap up this section, is there anything else on the fund that you want to share with everybody? I mean, I guess the next step is, when's this coming out? There's going to be 8 brands we're going to be talking about next year. So,
Yeah. So the takeaways, by the time this airs, the fund will be live and open for our final set of LP commitments. So we're going to be closing very soon. Really, there's two closing points, whichever one we hit first. One is a 3 million total fund size. That's the cap on the fund, so we can't go beyond that. And then the second is December 15th. So we're going to close at either that date or when we hit the 3 million cap, and then we'll move forward with the season 4 build out for all of 2026. And regarding season 4, we're accepting brand applications on a rolling basis, and are going to be evaluating opportunities throughout the year. I'll say that the first one is slated for late January. So those episodes will be released throughout the course of 26. And yeah, reach out if you're building something interesting, and would love to learn about you and your company.
G, as they say.
Let's go.
Let's go. One last thing that I don't think many people know the story unless they've read your LinkedIn post, is to bring it full circle on why Paperboy is called Paperboy. I think it's an awesome story. I think people should hear it from you. They can go read about it, of course, but I think it's a really nice nugget to leave people with, because it really sets the table for who we are, who you are, and why we do what we do.
Yeah, no, appreciate the question. So this is a fun one. I'll make it quick because we're already like past an hour, and I know we've got things to do today.
Yeah,
But
sure.
one thing that people probably don't know about me is I love sports. I've grown up an athlete. I still coach a high school basketball team with my brother in our local town. I was that kid growing up that was convinced I was going to the NBA. Like I was like, I'm in. In sixth grade, I was a great player, and like in high school, I did really well. But I'll say my biology never really caught up, and I'm not a big guy. I'm sitting down for this podcast, but I'm probably 5'10" on a good day. So never really hit that growth spurt that my brother and my sister got, which is annoying. But still was obsessed with basketball, and almost went to a few different schools. Had some offers to attend some smaller schools, D2 mostly. And I grew up in Connecticut, and in Connecticut, we don't have much here. We have pizza and we have basketball, and people are obsessed with UConn basketball in this state, and my family included. Like my dad, you should see the basement at my house. It's basically like a UConn shrine, and he's been obsessed with the UConn team for as long as I've been alive, and we used to watch these games. Like he'd be screaming at the TV, and like I'd be like, I don't know what is happening, but yeah, that's my dad. So as I was evaluating places to go for college, I wasn't getting recruited by UConn. They're one of the best programs in the country. But I did get into the business school, and after I got into the business school, I started thinking about it and was like, hey, maybe I could walk on to this team, and see if I could cut it. So I spent the whole summer working out and just getting ready for tryouts my freshman year, and showed up to tryouts that day. Hundreds of kids in the gym, and it was really an intense day, and I'll say I played well, and I prepared, I executed, and I was one of the shorter guys in the gym, and when tryouts were wrapping up, one of the coaches, his name is Tom Moore. He's still with the program today. he leans over to the head coach, Jim Calhoun. He had a conversation with him. He's like, who's this little kid over here? He looks like a paper boy. Like, he really like doesn't look like he should be on a basketball court. So, but like he's putting in work.
Yeah.
So they decided to take me onto the team, and the only caveat was that they never called me Kyle. So my name from that point on was Paperboy, because I just look so out of place on a basketball court with people like that. So that was the legend. Like, literally never Kyle on that team. And when I was thinking about starting this, I'm like, let's bring it back. It only makes sense, even if you don't know that story. I think it works on delivering news and opportunities, and demystifying the world of early stage consumer investing. So it works on that front too.
Works personally, works professionally. I love that story so much. I think it's a perfect place for us to end today. Thanks for jumping to the other side of the table and for letting us hear it direct from you on the journey today and the fund that is kicking off today. Very exciting.
Amazing. And thank you, Karli. It's been awesome to work together. And like, this is going to be, my least favorite phrase is like, we're just getting started, because I see that like all the time on posts. So I'm not going to say that, but this really is the beginning. And I hope everybody who's listening to this follows along. It's going to be a very fun 2026 and beyond as we create even more behind this platform.
Here we go.